Spiriloon friends, welcome to Bramble. Love among the Brambles' most complete and compelling recap show of the beloved Fae soap opera, the only such show on Gaia in DimQ. Today we cover episode 15932, Muddied Up, and we are sponsored by Pretext. In days gone by, a girl would have to send herself flowers to appear popular. But no more. The Fae, the woman on the go today, can simply show her popularity by Pretext. Yes, this handy application allows one to pre-schedule texts to be delivered to oneself, thereby showing how wildly popular, attractive, and desirable one is. Don't wait to be texted. It's the perfect pretext to becoming an influencer. In today's episode, we deal with a violent storm. As we know, Viola, last we saw her, had become disgusted with Stock when he chose to speak to Rosie Katie Diddleleaf. Viola stormed off, no pun there. She ran into the faunwitch. The faunwitch shared with Viola the faunwitch's secret. And now there is a storm in which Viola is caught as she is working her way back to Healer's cottage, back into the ring, out of the foggy forest. While she is traversing, she becomes caught in a mudslide and slides straight down nearly, grabbing a branch sticking out of the cliffside as it erodes with the violence of the storm. Meanwhile, sisters Calla Lily and Citron are safe at home at the Bramble homestead, where Calla Lily and Citron still live, the family home, with Viola. They too hunker down and have a sisterly talk, something they've not done for quite some time. Citron and Calla Lily have never gotten on particularly well, and this is a lovely scene where the sisters show appreciation for each other. I rather liked it. During the storm, Slate notices Brooke, like Viola, caught out in it, and he invites him to go with him to hunker down in their old clubhouse, so to speak, their Fae cave. And they sit inside watching the sheets of water pour down in front of the cave entrance. Having not been alone for some time together, just the two of them, with nothing else they needed to get to or go do. So this was, again, another lovely scene. Lots of introspection here, contemplation. Meanwhile, Pearl paces the floor at home with Milliam. Pearl intuits that Viola is in danger, and when the storm howls and the roof tends to pull off of Milliam's home, Nanny Nettlebottom grabs a cloak from off the rack and throws open the front door and goes out into the storm. The frailest and oldest in the family goes out into the storm, intuiting that her granddaughter is in peril. She goes off to seek her. The bravery of Nanny Nettlebottom is unparalleled. That's all there is to it. Looking for shelter in the storm, not just literally but figuratively, Magnolia goes to the home of Nanny and Milliam, seeking Nanny for solace. We know Nanny's not there. She's out looking for Viola. If only they'd crossed paths, perhaps Magnolia could have talked some sense into Nanny. When Magnolia gets to the home, she finds Milliam asleep, a jug of Neverclear beside him. She also sees that Milliam has knocked over a candle beside him, and that the jug of Neverclear is now aflame. Before the entire place can explode, Magnolia takes swift, decisive action and puts out the little fire before it becomes a raging inferno. An inferno much like where I live at this moment. Magnolia not only saves the new home, the newly rebuilt home, one should say, she saves Milliam's life. Now, is this a sign that she has become good, or is that a natural instinct to put out a fire? I'll let you be the judge of that, viewers. When we left Stock, he was in the thrall of Rosie Katie Diddleleaf. That is what set Viola off on her path in the first place, disgust with Stock at seeing him fall right back into the thrall of that little leaf. We now know the reason for his having returned to her thrall. When he, Viola, and Rosie were in the room together, Rosie whispered to Stock that if Stock did not come back to her, she would poison Viola. In this scene, Not only do we come to realize Stock was feigning having once again fallen under Rosie's spell, but throughout their conversation, he proves he is impervious to her charms. He tells her to leave, never to come back, threatens her, in turn, with a visitation from spiders if she returns to the ring, and sends her duplicitous self packing. Interesting times for the men in this show. Slate, ready to dispense with Dahlia the Dalliance, and as an accompaniment, Lena, and now Stock, finally out of thrall of Rosie Katy Diddleaf. One should know she would do this little thing where she would rub her front legs together. It would sound like sandpaper. At the same time, she would emit a high-pitched little noise, and it is for what humans would be called using hypnosis to render someone incapable of resisting your direction. However, in this scene, Stock finds the wherewithal to resist and to get rid of her once and for all. Kudos, Stock. One's faith in your fortitude had been restored. During the storm, when Brooke and Slate are hunkered down together in the cave watching the sheets of water pour off the front of the cave, Brooke brings up the issue of his being a unicorn, knowing that Slate cannot just bolt, but may have to sit and listen. During their conversation, though Slate tries desperately to change the topic, Brooke does get out the fact that he has concrete proof he is indeed a unicorn, and, what's more, the unicorns have accepted him as their kin. Slate, unsurprisingly, is rendered dumbstruck. All the years of hearing Brooke bellyache, whine, moan, wishing he could be a unicorn, and now we know, and Slate knows, it is because deep inside, Brooke craved and yearned to express himself fully, and that included his unicornery. Something inside him knew. Deep down, there was more to him. Very interesting writing, very interesting turns of events. After being cast out by Stock, Rosie Katy Diddleaf goes straight to Seeley Hall to complain to Mayor Hollow, who is there battening the hatches against the storm, and says he has no time for civic matters. The place may be torn to bits by the winds if he does not shutter everything. Nonetheless, Rosie Katy Diddleaf makes her case about the spiders, saying that as a civil servant it is his duty to rid the realm of spiders, and she lets slip that Stock would do nothing to help her. He says, "Why come to me? This is a private matter." And she says, "I tried going the private route. I asked Stock for help. Not only would he not help me, he has kicked me out." She says this in hopes of currying compassion from the mayor, getting him on her side. His ears prick up upon hearing Stock has kicked her out, insomuch as he values Stock's opinion greatly. So we know he tried to persuade Stock to become a member of his civil servant team, his administration. And Stock, it was not for him. He's not political. He's not interested in sidling up to individuals, pretending to be their friend just to get favors from them or for them to see things his way. He's not a politician. And so Rosie Katy Diddleaf's ploy to earn the sympathy of Mayor Hollow backfires. He says, "Stock kicked you out?" And she very quickly says, yes. He asked me to leave, never to return. Can you believe it?" The mayor thinks for a moment and says, "As mayor, I must ask you to leave the ring at once, never to return." Well, Mayor Hollow may not have been the most effective when it comes to the transit authority. But then again, dealing with humans, what can one expect? But he redeems himself as a civil servant in this moment, casting out Rosie Katy Diddleaf. She is not welcome in the ring, and should she return, she will face persecution and arrest. She brings up the fact it's not illegal to enter the ring, and he says it is when the mayor says it is, and I say you are no longer welcome. This is my decree. Respect it or bear the brunt of the consequences. She says, "But you can't expect me to go out in the storm, to travel in these conditions." He brings up, "You traveled here, didn't you? Keep traveling." Mayor Hollow wins this episode, in my estimation. We'd mentioned Magnolia stopping by Nanny's, where a little fire had just begun to build. Not only does she save the home and save Milliam, but when she goes into the guest room at Milliam's invitation to rest, Milliam makes a decision one never saw coming. He decides to go off Neverclear Starshine for good. No longer will he imbibe spirited spirits. He will be sober. A sober Milliam is something one can hardly imagine. Not that he's a drunk, falling all over himself at all times, but he does love his Neverclear and can hold it well. Will he be irritable when he's not having his nightly cup of clarity? Will Nanny see a difference in him? We shall see. Moving on to Prince Raffia. As you recall, he'd been going back and forth, something of a yo-yo. Should I spare the Brambles my ire, or should I devote myself to their demise? No holds barred. We know that he'd sworn off his vendetta 1 week, the next, easily swayed by Lena, to pick it right back up again. In this episode, we see he officially, ceremoniously, courts Lena. Yes, he and Lena are not only fraternizing and conspiring, they are now a team. Nothing about that union could spell anything but utter disaster, not only for the Brambles, but for the ring. I don't know how anyone will overcome their power together. Dodd Hoskins is not in this episode. The theatrical actor who plays him was unable to film as he was off at a festival where he was being honored for his work in the block-busting film he'd taken off last season, I believe it was, to appear in, and had missed several episodes of Love Among the Brambles. And now he is being lauded for his work in that film. Due to be back next week, sources say. This episode received a 2.5 mushroom rating. There was nothing wrong with it per se, according to critics. It just didn't have much punch. The few who gave it 5 mushrooms all cited Maya Hollow's decisiveness as the reason for the superior rating. Let's see what the callers have to say. Caller number 1, what say you?
Of course, it's very sad about Viola being stuck out in the storm, especially with the mudslide and all. But what I want to know is what's the faunwitch's secret? It's driving me mad, and I fear I might do something drastic if I don't find out fast. Do the producers really want my actions on their hands?
The faunwitch's secret. I confess, I no longer expect to get answers from the writers who work on the show these days. It is my defense mechanism against abject disappointment, and I am at the point that if we find out, I will be thrilled. If we don't find out what the faunwitch's secret is, I won't be ruffled in the least. I am prepared for that sort of abuse from the writers. If the producers are hearing what you've said, if they listen to this show today, I think you have given them great pause. I hope they will give heed to what you've said, lest your plight be on their heads. Caller number 2?
I knew it wouldn't be long before Raffia went back to the dark side. How long did his good guy resolution last? 1 episode? Now that he's with Lena, you just know things are going to go south for the Brambles, especially since Lena has it in for Slate after he kicked out her daughter.
Yes, that is a good point to remind us all of, that Lena is not an impartial party. Not only was she after Slate's money from the get-go, we believe, no one has flat out said it, but we all have believed that, but she knows that Slate has ousted Dahlia the Dalliance. The sham wedding, the sham mariage, is no more. And so Lena now has cause to want to persecute the Brambles. Thank you for reminding us of that, caller number 2. Let's move on to caller number 3.
Okay, look. Which of the genius, and I use the term lightly, writers thought it was a good idea to send Nanny out in the storm? I mean, honestly, the young folks are safe indoors while the centuries-old matriarch goes out alone to battle the elements. They should be ashamed of themselves. I don't know what's going on. Thank you. Bye.
When you say they should be ashamed of themselves, I wonder if you refer to the writers or the younger Brambles, who, as you say, were safe, while the matriarch, the eldest, went out alone to battle the elements. However, I will say this in the defense of the characters. They do not know of Nanny's plan. She shared it with no one. So they would not be in a position to offer assistance to her. They do not know of Viola's danger. And so, to me, it does make sense. And while I empathize with you and I understand, I don't see how there could be any other way. If Nanny intuited her granddaughter was in danger, it is Nanny's character, in her soul, to immediately take action. And we know they've always had a very close bond as granddaughter, grandmother. So while I empathize with you, I do think that was the right decision on the part of the writers. Well, friends, that brings us to the close of episode 15932, Muddied Up. Next Plulu. In episode 15933, we can expect a visitor to Ivy Glen Spa, workplace of Calla Lily. We can expect another in the ring to go in search of one who is missing. And we can expect Mayor Hollow to have made a decision regarding who he would hire to work at Seeley Hall. Until then, my friends, do try to keep calm and bramble on. Stay out of storms and mudslides and fires. Enjoy your time and enjoy each other. Cheriste Song.